Carrie for Workbook Lesson in A Course in Miracles, Lesson 44, God is the light in which I see. Today we are continuing the idea for yesterday, adding another dimension to it. You cannot see in darkness and you cannot make light. You can make darkness and then think you see in it, but light reflects life and is therefore an aspect of creation. Creation and darkness cannot coexist, but light and life must go together, being different aspects of creation. So you cannot see in darkness means if we make up an image of ourselves, the only way that that image can seem to be true is by shrouding it in darkness. But in darkness we can't see, so we need light in which to see our true self. Okay, in order to see, you must recognize the light is within and not without. You do not see outside yourself, nor is the equipment for seeing outside of you. An essential part of this equipment is the light that makes seeing possible. It is with you always, making vision possible in every circumstance. Okay, so we've been working on this idea from the beginning of the workbook, is that our perceptions and our seeing and our thinking starts from the inside and goes out. And that's a reverse of how the ego thinks about it or the world thinks about it, is that seeing is caused by the outside coming in. So we're reversing that idea. Seeing begins inside, and we need light to see with, and that equipment is within us. That light is within us, allowing us to see. So today we're going to attempt to reach that light. For this purpose we will use a form of exercise which we have suggested before and which we will utilize increasingly. It is a particularly difficult form for the undisciplined mind and represents a major goal of mind training. It requires precisely what the untrained mind lacks, yet this training must be accomplished if you are to see. So this is a bootstrap problem. Right? A chicken and egg problem. We need this kind of training to be able to see, and to be able to see is difficult without this training. So we just have to do this lesson. That will be, just make these attempts. That's what will train our minds in order that we can see in the way that this lesson is suggesting. Have at least 3 practice periods today, each lasting 3 to 5 minutes. I think that means you could have more if you want them. A longer time is highly recommended, but only if you find the time slipping by with little or no sense of strain. So if we're finding peace from this and we want to extend it, the Course is saying that's a good idea. Okay, the form of practice we will use today is the most natural and easy one in the world for the trained mind, just as it seems to be the most unnatural and difficult for the untrained mind. So your mind is no longer wholly untrained, and you're quite ready to learn the form of exercise we will use today, but you may find that you will encounter strong resistance. The reason is very simple. While you practice in this way, you leave behind everything you now believe and all the thoughts that you made up. Properly speaking, this is the release from hell. Yet perceived through the ego's eyes, it is a loss of identity and descent into hell. So if we identify with the ego, that's what's going to cause resistance to this lesson. And if we identify with this light, if we try to enter this light that's within us, within our minds, that will be releasing us from all of the sense of a self as ego and all the thoughts that come from it, which is, if we're honest, is really a hellish sort of view of ourselves and our reality. Okay. If you can stand outside from the ego by ever so little, you will have no difficulty in recognizing that its oppositions and its fears are meaningless. You might find it helpful to remind yourself from time to time that to reach light is to escape from darkness, whatever you may believe to the contrary. God is the light in which you see. You are attempting to reach Him. Okay, so alright, so we begin the practice period by repeating today's idea with the eyes open and then close them slowly, repeating the idea several times more, and then trying to sink into your mind, letting go every letting go every kind of interference and intrusion by quietly sinking past them. Your mind cannot be stopped in this unless you choose to stop it. It is merely taking its natural course. Try to observe your passing thoughts without involvement and slip quietly by. So the description of this process is that it's natural. It's the way things should be. And what doesn't allow us to see how natural it is the interferences of the ego, the interference of the image of ourselves that we made up. That stands in the way. But if we can stand back ever so little from this false image of ourselves, then the mind will naturally do this. That's the ease and the peace by which our minds can work in. That's the natural condition of the mind, this ease and this peace. So he goes on to describe the process. While no particular approach is advocated for this form of exercise, what is needful is a sense of the importance of what you're doing. It's inestimable value to you and an awareness that you're attempting something very holy. Salvation is your happiest accomplishment. It is also the only one that has any meaning because it's the only one that has any real use to you at all. Okay, so this is an attitudes, a set of ideas that we can hold in our mind as before we're doing this practice to really understand what we're trying to do. It's something very holy. We're trying to remember who we are. We're trying to remember our reality of being rooted in God or in love. So that's very, very, if we have that sense within us, that will help animate this practice, that this is very valuable to us. It's a very happy thing, and it's our greatest accomplishment. So what we're doing here is really a big deal. That's what it's saying. This is really, really important, and it's a very profound practice, and we should have that understanding as we're doing it. So if resistance rises in any form, pause long enough to repeat today's idea, keeping your eyes closed unless you're aware of fear. In that case, you'll probably find it more reassuring to open your eyes briefly. Try, however, to return to the exercise with eyes closed as soon as possible. Okay, so this practice is not one in which we're trying to search thoughts in our mind. It's not one in which we're trying to find thoughts that are in resonance with our truer thoughts. It's an exercise where we're letting go of all of the content of the mind as much as possible and trying to sink very deeply in our minds. And that's the natural course of our thinking, is to go very deep inside our minds. And that's where the light is that we will see who we truly are. That's where we need to go to in the minds to see who we really are. Okay. So if there's a resistance, then we repeat the idea in that case. And if we need to open our eyes and repeat the idea, we can do that. But its point is then to just get us back to this place where the mind is just taking its natural function, its openness to just go to this place inside of our minds where the light is, where God is, where our source is. Okay, so if you're doing the exercises correctly, you should experience some sense of relaxation and even a feeling that you are approaching, if not actually entering into light. Try to think of light, formless and without limit, as you pass by the thoughts of this world, and do not forget that they cannot hold you to the world unless you give them the power to do so. So we're firming up our conviction, we're structuring the attitudes of our minds here, reminding ourselves of the importance of it, reminding ourselves of what light is, formless without limit, and that we have to go past this supposedly common sense view of ourselves, go past that to find that light inside, and that this is what will happen if we don't give power to this image of ourselves, this ego image, to block the mind's natural path towards the light. Okay, so that's the longer practices, and then here's the frequent reminders throughout the day. Repeat the idea often with eyes closed, eyes open or closed, as seems better to you at the time. You need discretion in that. It's just sometimes not possible to have your eyes closed as you're going about your activities during the day. And then here's really important. This is this call to practice, to this recognition that it is through practice that we will learn these things, and without practice, no learning can occur. So today he's saying, but do not forget, above all, be determined not to forget today. So we might want to set that sense of determination as we go through the day, that we want to remember this idea by repeating it and reminding ourselves of this practice, of its importance, and reminding ourselves that we want to see and that the light is within us to see. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you.